Well, I was not planning to record anything today, but Sony and Microsoft decided to open their big mouths, so it's rant time, baby! So why don't we just jump right into this and talk about it. This is gonna be pretty casual video here, but of course, straight from the PlayStation Twitter account. Let me read it so that I know exactly what it said. But Sony is not going to be releasing any physical games. There will be no more physical releases of their games after January 2028, which is leading to speculation that pretty much as far as I can guess here, that the PlayStation 6 is going to be an entirely digital console. This it's insane that they're doing this. And by the way, they're doing this right after they announced that, let me find it, but they just had to announce that because there was a licensing agreement that ended, here we go, from the PlayStation Store. As of the 1st of September 2026, due to our content licensing arrangements, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Studio Canal content, and the content will be removed from your video library. Thank you, PlayStation Store, with the tag at the bottom of the little image here saying, "Play has no limits." So, apparently they do have a limit. So, the limit is the Studio Canal videos or movies or whatever. So, I think it was, like they announced 550 something movies or something that were going to be just straight up removed from anybody's account who bought them on the PlayStation Store. So you won't own those anymore, even if you spent money on them. And this is exactly what people are afraid of with the announcement that they're going to go completely digital for the next console, and that there will be no physical release, I think, of Grand Theft Auto 6. You know, this is supposed to be one of the biggest game releases of all time. It's been, years at this point in anticipation, and then they come out and they're like, there's not going to be a physical disc that you can buy for this thing. Of course, that already had people nervous, and then now, with the confirmation that they're just going to stop physical releases altogether, it's very bleak times. And by the way, we're not through with the Sony bad news yet either, because they also announced today, as a joint announcement with this for this thing, that they will not be or that support for the PS3 eShops, or whatever they call them, the PS3 store and the online shop for the PS Vita will be shutting down. Now, I get it. They're getting ready to move on to the PS6. It's probably a miracle that the PS3 online store is even still active. But they're announcing we're going to full digital, okay? Full digital now. No more physical releases. Also, this old console you have, you won't be able to buy digital on it anymore either. That thing is completely worthless now. So, this is what the game industry is doing. And this is at the same time, this year, console prices have gone up, just already twice, I think, for some of them. I think both Nintendo and Microsoft have already upped the price of the Nintendo Switch 2, and even the older Nintendo Switch consoles have gone up in price. Usually the normal way this would work would be the older consoles, the previous console, goes down in price as the new one comes out. But no, because of the big push for AI and to sustain these data centers that are popping up left and right all over the place and ruining the environment and, making the temperature hotter where they're built, as well as the noise pollution, because these centers just keep putting out this loud humming noise that apparently the people who live near them were told, this is only a temporary thing. It's just a test. So don't worry, it'll go away eventually. Months went by and it never went away, and it's probably never going to go away because they don't care. The push for AI, to integrate AI into every single aspect of our lives, so that, hey, we need AI to tell us what restaurant we should go eat at now. We need AI to tell me how to explain this book that I'm reading. I don't understand the subtext. I don't get the metaphor. AI, could you please tell me what this means? Instead of sitting down and reading it or going online and looking up somebody who knows what they're talking about and getting the answer from somebody who's actually intelligent, no, we're going to let the phone generate us an answer that may or may not be correct. Because as they've shown plenty of times, that AI will hallucinate answers if it can't find one. So Sony today decided to just take a dump all over their bed, all over gamers, and all over the gaming industry by announcing that no more physical releases, no the end of the online shops for the PS3 and the Vita, and couple that with the recent announcement that like 500 movies or TV shows or whatever are going to be pulled from your PlayStation library because they lost a licensing agreement. So now you spent that money on that particular piece of media, but you won't have access to it anymore, and you're just out of luck. So, but not to be outdone, Microsoft also is floating around some rumors of their own. This is from Discussing Film on Twitter, by the way. Xbox's next-gen hardware, Project Helix, is not expected to include a disk drive either. So not only is Sony moving to digital only, but Microsoft looks to be heading in that direction too. I think this was backed up by a different rumor that Microsoft is working on a disk-to-digital service somehow that will allow you to take your physical games, your discs on the Xbox, and create a digital copy of that game that will be specifically linked to that disc that you used. You know, GameStop still carries physical releases for Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. Well, if two of those companies shut down the production of physical games, that's going to cut into GameStop's business a lot. Not to mention that, you know, you can't just go out and lend a PS6 game, you know, whenever that thing eventually comes out, or whatever the next Xbox is. You won't be able to just say like, hey, you know what, have you heard of this game? And you go like, oh no, I haven't heard of that game. Is it any good? Yeah, I think it's pretty good. You want to borrow it for a while and see if you like it? Sure. Well, you won't be able to borrow games anymore. You won't be able to rent games physically anymore. Now, there's nothing wrong with digital games, by the way. I want to just point that out. There's nothing wrong with buying digital games. I have a nice little mix, I think, of physical games, mostly for Nintendo. You know, I've got a Switch 2, so I would prefer to buy most of my games physical, or at least when I can. But I also have a Steam account, and I like having, you know, if it's convenient for, you know, games that otherwise you would be limited to just the PlayStation or the Xbox, but Sony and Microsoft have decided to let their games go to PC too, so they end up on Steam. Hey, that's a nice little substitute. I don't have to go out and buy a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or whatever, or maybe the next generation. You know, I don't have to do that if I don't want to. And generally, Steam games go on sale quite a bit, so if you just wait a little while, you can get these games for pretty cheap. How do people not see what's happening? How do people not see that there is a problem in the gaming industry? Game consoles have gone up twice this year in price. The Steam machine just came out, and it's got a $1,000 price tag on it. And people are already speculating that it looks like the PlayStation 6 could be in that $1,000 plus price range as well. Not only is gaming becoming more exclusive, you know, it's becoming more expensive. So only people who can afford to buy these expensive machines and consoles will be able to play these games. And it's disappointing to see the industry move to this, you know, point where who knows what it's just a constant stream of bad news. Every other day, a studio gets, decides to announce that they're going to be laying off a bunch of people. You know, I made a short on here recently making fun of, you know, I was making fun of Microsoft for that Xbox showcase from a few weeks ago, where they were hyping up the future of Xbox, and one of the taglines that they had used in some of their promotional material for the Xbox showcase was, "Xbox is back." Well, what happened? A week after that Xbox showcase, where everybody was like, you know what, this was one of the best Xbox showcases in a very long time. I'm very excited about the future of Xbox. What happens? Then massive rumor comes out that that basically the Xbox division of Microsoft is gonna be just gutted, where multiple studios are at risk of being shut down or sold off, with some hoping they'll be able to spin and go independent. Some of the games that were announced at the Xbox showcase are in jeopardy of being canceled now, and even just like the last few days, it was even like it was reinforced like there's gonna be heavy cuts at Xbox. Like they're getting rid of a lot of people. It ain't gonna be some little bitty thing, and you know that goes beyond just them. Like it was not that long ago, Epic Games. We're talking about AI and Epic again. I already did a separate rant on Epic when they did this, announcing they fired over 1,000 people. It was like somewhere between 20 and 25% of their entire team got fired. Meanwhile, what's Tim Sweeney doing? He's online promoting AI. Oh, this game failed. By the way, we're not done with Sony just yet either, because he's actually pushing for Sony to move to AI too. Or this online service needs more content. Sony, let's just get into that real quick because it ties into the Tim Sweeney thing. But Sony announcing that they're still going full speed forward, or full steam ahead, no pun intended, with the Steam Deck and Steam Machine. But they want to make more live service games. All of Sony's live service games have crashed and burned. They've all died miserable deaths because they couldn't really tap into what people want from a live service game. But for some reason, every one of these companies thinks that they have the next big Fortnite-like game just waiting to be unleashed on the world. And they don't. Fortnite is like a unique beast. It worked for some reason. And one of the reasons why it worked is because it stole ideas. Fortnite had Fortnite's original mode, Save the World, was not lighting the world on fire. But when they released a Battle Royale, which was copying other games at the time, it actually did well. The gameplay style lent itself well to the Battle Royale gimmick, and it got popular. And so what did they do? They started stealing other ideas from games, and that's basically what Fortnite became. And why it became so big is because they'd see a good idea in this game and a good idea in this game, and they just mashed them together in the Fortnite. And like suddenly you've got Batman running around. Sure, it doesn't make any sense for Batman to have a gun, but people liked it because people liked the gameplay. All of Sony's live action games have been failures, but they have reconfirmed that they are going to still be trying to do more live service games. And these games cost a ton of money to make, and then they lose money. It's like, how many times can you fail before you realize that something don't work? It's just like, it reminds me of a quote from, I don't laugh, but it reminds me of a quote from Hey Arnold, where the character Stinky says, my granddaddy used to tell me, try again until you can't try no more. And if you still can't do it, well, then you just wasted a lot of time trying to do something you just couldn't do. And that's exactly what Sony is doing. It's just, I'm really struggling to try to decide whether Sony or Microsoft are the worst of the gaming industry. They're making choices that just seem to be actively hurting the industry. Now, it's not all on them, but it kind of is, because Microsoft and Sony want to get into AI, which is jacking up the price of the console parts that they need, which then they turn around and have to this AI stuff that we're supporting is making us have to raise prices on consoles. Oops. And people aren't making more money. That's one thing that most people aren't doing. People aren't getting richer. The general public out there that wants to buy these games, they don't have the extra funds to be able to, make up for the additional cost. So what are they going to do? They're going to do what most people are saying today. They're just not going to buy any more game consoles. They'll probably just buy a very good gaming PC and then just play most of their games on their PC. Yeah, we talked about Tim Sweeney, where Tim Sweeney's out there, where he was talking about, let me go back to that and we'll get into Nintendo, because I do want to say some things about Nintendo. But Yeah, Tim Sweeney was talking about one of the games that was having to shut down their service because they could not meet up with, the demand for content for the gamers. I think it was like Destiny 2. I think that was what it was. But he said, gee, if only there was some kind of, new technology that would be able to produce this content at a rapid pace so that they could satisfy the players. Do you not see the problem? That Fortnite was able to, this is a guy who was supporting a live service game that's been around for almost a decade at this point. And they were able to do that without AI. Fortnite got big without AI, so they don't need it. And the way they're utilizing it, at least publicly, is to render out concept art for skins so that they can see what they look like in 3D. But it's a completely worthless thing, to do that, because you don't need the AI to show you what the game, what the concept art will look like rendered, because you could just send your concept art to the 3D artist and have them start working on it. And anything that doesn't work in 3D, you can sit back and refine. And hey, this isn't going to work. Can we change it? Because guess what? You're going to have to do that anyway, because the AI is not generating you a full 3D model. Epic just fired 1,000 people, and then right away started announcing they were working with AI for skin concepts, which is exactly what people thought they were going to do. It's like, oh, it's just a coincidence that they fired all these people, and now they're being very publicly pro-AI as a company, not just Tim Sweeney. Even though there have been people who work at Epic, some of the people who actually physically work on the game, the actual developers, who are against AI, and they don't want AI utilized in this way, but their boss is making them use it. But anyway, so Tim Sweeney just decides to, of course, be an idiot who is also ruining Fortnite. Apparently, let me throw this in there before we get to Nintendo, but apparently there was a rumor going out that Epic wants to include a rating system for cosmetics in the item shop so that you can like it, double like it, or dislike it. And I guess that will let Epic know which skins you really like, and think suck. Which, don't you already do that when you choose to either buy a skin or not buy a skin? Like, if you like the skin, wouldn't you buy it? I mean, if you could afford it, but I mean, it wouldn't make any sense to buy a skin that you don't like. So you already have a way to gauge how people feel about a skin, because you can already see how many people have bought that skin. So if it's popular, or if people are willing to buy it, or if a lot of people are willing to buy it, you will have that information. You don't need a ranking system, because you don't have to spend any money to rank something, which means you can just go in there and say, you don't like, pick a random show, or like, say somebody does say Nintendo does a Legend of Zelda collab in the strange future for this game, and somebody just like, I hate the Legend of Zelda, let me go dislike this collab. What if the anti-woke people come in and they see Rainbow Royale in the item shop, and they just encourage everybody to go do a massive dislike campaign so that it will send the message to Epic that we don't want these to come back? What if the AI people go in there and they flood the item shop AI skins with likes so that Epic will bring them back, or maybe make more of them? Like, I don't want that. I already can't stop people from buying the AI skins with their money, but I don't want to have an endless supply of people influencing what comes back to the item shop and what doesn't, because you can like and dislike stuff because it'll feed into the algorithm. Like, we don't need that. An online store does not need an algorithm, especially if your main purpose of an online store is to make money. Why would you not? Like, one of the things I don't understand is why they don't just throw as much stuff into the item shop as they possibly can. Like, I guess that they have licensing deals and stuff so that they don't, like, you can only bring back this skin for a certain amount of time. Maybe you have to renew that. But I mean, if you had the option to just leave a skin in the item shop for people to buy whenever they want or whenever it's convenient for them, then you probably would make more money. Because I have all of the Dragon Ball skins that came out in Fortnite except for Android 17, Android 18, and Future Trunks. I didn't have enough V-Bucks at the time that those skins released, and it's been quite a while since they've been back in the item shop. So When will they come back? Who knows? It's been a while since I can remember that they did have any of the Dragon Ball skins in there. So it could be that they never come back. And I would hate that. But again, like, it's all about being more consumer friendly. And unfortunately, it seems like video games are headed towards the same sort of, exclusive digital market, just like a Fortnite skin, where, you just got to hope that the thing you want sticks around long enough for you to get it, and that, something doesn't happen and they take it away from you at a later date. But I said I was going to talk about Nintendo, and I want to talk about Nintendo because I will say that I do think that this move here from Sony and Microsoft will reinforce Nintendo's stance on keeping their games exclusive to their consoles. That they'll keep making consoles. Nintendo is super successful because of their consoles. Even when they flop, I think it still turns out good because the Switch was a phenomenal console for them. And I think the Switch 2, despite like initial concerns, we'll go on, and once we get, this is the second year of the Switch 2. As time goes on and more of the big games come out, and we get that eventual 3D Mario game, and I'm sure some iteration, some kind of new Super Smash Brothers game is going to come. This will be another hit for them, especially with the backwards compatibility, so you don't lose out on games you already have from the original Switch. Nintendo Switch Online got the GameCube catalog, so there's still other things they can do. I still want them to add, some other Sega consoles. The Genesis is a part of the Nintendo Switch Online service. Why not bring in the Sega Saturn or the Dreamcast? It's not perfect, but you could do that. Because if you could add one Sega console, you could add others. But the one thing I want to say is that while I do think that Nintendo, as far as physical releases go, I think we're safe there. But the other thing is that my fear is that what Xbox and PlayStation are going to end up being are subscription services similar to Nintendo Switch Online, where you can't buy any of the games on the service, but you pay for access to the service and then you play those games. Now, why is that bad? Why? Well, you never know when a game's going to get pulled for any reason. Now, luckily, Nintendo Switch Online has only had, as far as I'm aware, only one instance of a game being removed from the service. But the fact that it happened once means it can happen again. Now, I don't think that Nintendo is going to ever pull their own games from that service, but it is bothersome to think that you can't buy, like I made the example here, that you can't buy The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, or pretty much any of those old, first-party Nintendo games. There might be a few on, or the arcade version. I think the arcade version of Donkey Kong you could buy from the eShop, but not like the NES version. But, the thing is, you can't buy Ocarina of Time, so you have to play it on Nintendo Switch Online. You have to pay for the console, and you have to pay for the subscription service. If Nintendo were to ever decide, for whatever reason, to pull Ocarina of Time from NSO, well, then that's it. There are no more legal options to get this game. You'll have to, track down an old console, which they don't make anymore, and it does not support their, eShops. So if it's not already pre-built into the console, you can't buy it. Or find track down a physical version of the game, which is going to be harder because there'll be, and probably more expensive because it'll be harder to track those down. So it's just really frustrating. Again, NSO is cool because they are bringing back games, some of them that have been, long forgotten. There was no official way to play the GameCube version of Soul Calibur 2. Well, now you have that if you pay for NSO. But again, if their agreement with Bandai Namco goes out, then they might lose Soul Calibur 2. Just because Link's in there doesn't mean that they can't just, Bamco can't just go, we don't want to license this out anymore. We don't care about the GameCube version of this game. We've got another version that we can put on these other consoles that has both Spawn and Heihachi in it. We're not too worried about Link. So what happens then? Well, bye-bye Soul Calibur 2 GameCube version again. And that's the problem. Couple that couple the fear of like a subscription-only service where you can't buy any games anymore. No more ownership of games. You can only pay for a service and then play the games that they let you play, which is going to already limit your, options, because they're not going to put any of these, random forgotten games on here, because that's going to take away from the new releases, which are supposed to, drive up subscription numbers. So, what happens? Oh, well, the remake of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is coming out on the Switch too. Okay, well, you know what? We don't want to potentially overshadow the new game, so why don't we just pull the original Ocarina of Time? So, and we'll pull all the other Zeldas too. No, you don't need to play Breath of the Wild. That game's been out for a while now. No more Tears of the Kingdom. No more Hyrule Warriors. No more Wind Waker or whatever, which you can't get Wind Waker or Twilight Princess on the Switch. But, well, you can play Wind Waker on NSO, but whatever. Nintendo, at least, will have physical games. I don't see that stopping. But the answer is also not just to have games, tucked behind a subscription service. Because that means you don't own those games. It's just screwing people over. These are bleak times for the gaming industry. And I feel like every other week I can quote tweet on something from Twitter, and I just say the video game industry is dying. Because every time you turn around, people are getting fired left and right. Epic Games made, record profits last year, but they still fired 1,000 people. Game development times are like, it's taking longer and longer to finish these gigantic big budget games. And they don't make what they like, we project that this game will make us $800 million or whatever. But then it only falls short. It maybe only makes it to $700 million, which would be more than what they made last year. Let's say Sony projected they were going to make $500 million, in total. Let's just say that. It could be a completely unrealistic number, but let's just say that. Maybe they bring in, maybe they were, say they made 500 last year. They project to make 800, but they only make 700 million. Well, that's failure in their eyes. So guess what? They're going to fire people. Even though they made more money than the last year. That's what businesses do. They think the number has to always go up. There is no such thing as having a bad year. There's no such thing as profits slowing down. The profit has to always be at a steady increase. There is no maximum. There for a lot of these CEOs, the suits that, all they do all day is sign paperwork and talk to people on the phone. They don't know or care about video games. Most of them would be just fine shipping a broken or unfinished game. They wouldn't care, like, oh, the DLC is going to have the final chapter of the story. We don't care. We're not going to make that final chapter. Just ship the game anyway. They don't care. They don't care if a game's got, bugs that will just break the game entirely. Erase your save state, maybe, your save progress. They don't care. But they're the ones who get to run all this. They're the ones who make all of the decisions that lead to these situations. And they're always the ones whose jobs are never on the line. The tippy top of the ladder, they're safe. It's everyone else. The people who actually make the games, they're the ones whose jobs are always at risk. And it doesn't matter. If your game flops, you get fired. If your game does well, you get fired. If some kind of agreement between the two companies involved in making one game, goes kaput, you get fired. There is no incentive to work in the gaming industry because it's just almost like inevitable at some point that no matter how good of a game you release, no matter how well it does, no matter how bad it does, you're getting fired. And so what do? Well, I would say try to avoid buying a Sony console. Don't buy PlayStations. Don't buy anything from Microsoft. So ignore the next Xbox if this Project Helix is rumored to, not have a disk drive. So I would just say don't buy anything from Sony or Microsoft. Nintendo is I would say it's a safe bet. I don't know. I don't have an uncle who works for Nintendo. But I would say it's a safe bet that Nintendo is not going to be abandoning physical games, physical releases anytime soon. They have done some of that stuff, like the game key, the card key, or whatever they called it. They may be trying to dabble into it, but I don't think they're ever going to physically do that. At least I hope not. Probably it's a good idea to start preparing to invest in a good gaming PC and set you up a Steam account. Because I trust Steam. I mean, I know that they're not perfect, but I think that Valve does a pretty good job with Steam, which infuriates Tim Sweeney. Sweeney actually said something recently about he would love to see, Epic, some of Epic's own games end up on Steam in the future to work out some kind of a deal with Valve to get them on there. When Epic bought the developers of Fall Guys got delisted from Steam. If you bought it on Steam, you can still launch it that way, but you can't buy Fall Guys on Steam anymore. They made it, where you can only buy it on the Epic Games Store now. So it just crazy that Sweeney will say one thing and then do the opposite, and then he expects people to take him seriously. Yeah, this has been like over a half-hour rant at this point, but I don't know what else to tell you, man. This stuff it's sad, and I don't think it's going away. There was already reports coming out that people keeping up with these, these chip prices and stuff, to, as it revolves, is talking about AI and the effect of AI on game console prices and how they're just steadily going up. And now reports are that a lot of the experts are saying that they don't think that the prices are going to come down anytime soon, if they ever do. So the game industry could be potentially permanently ruined from all this AI push. And I don't know. But let me just wrap this up by saying, maybe think about getting away from home consoles. Get a good gaming PC. And learn emulation. Because that's going to especially be helpful for older games that are going to be harder to get. And emulation is not perfect. I've said that so many times on this channel. Emulation is not the perfect answer to this dilemma. These game companies should be able to, or should be providing people a way, if they want to buy a digital copy of a game, they can. Because that's an infinite resource. But they should still have physical releases of games made for people who want that too. Or at the very least, because you don't have to pay for producing a physical game anymore, drop the prices of the digital games. It makes no sense for a digital game to cost the same as a physical release, or even more than a physical release. I'm trying to see now, there was one more thing I wanted to look at. Here it is, from Revolver Germ on Twitter. Sony is currently charging $70 for God of War Ragnarok digitally. It is $32 at Walmart. The game is 4 years old. People will no longer have options after 2028 and will have to go directly to Sony's digital storefront or pay whatever PlayStation says. You can go get the PS4 version at Walmart, the physical game disc, for $32. But if that goes bye-bye, then all you're left with is the $70 version, which costs more than twice that of the one that you can go just pick up at Walmart directly from Sony themselves. But that's all I wanted to do, guys. I wanted to rant. I had to get this out there. Like I said, I was not planning to record anything today, but I really felt like it's important to talk about these things. When the industry is crumbling in front of our eyes, then it's important to talk about this. Even if ultimately we can't do anything about it, at the very least, being able to vocalize our thoughts on it is important. And, there was that time where Microsoft was going to raise the price of Xbox Live in the middle of the pandemic, where people were going to be at home more and people were going to be playing games more. So Microsoft said, going to be a lot of people wanting to play online. What if we double the price of Xbox Live, huh? And then the backlash was so severe that they just did away with charging for Xbox Live altogether. or at the very least, they made it to where that any free-to-play game, you didn't have to pay for Xbox Live to play, because that was the way it used to work. You know, I still play sometimes Fortnite on my Xbox One, even though I mostly play it on Switch 2 now. But you'd have to have an active Xbox Live subscription to be able to play Fortnite, even though it's a free-to-play game. Well, after Microsoft went back on their doubling of the price of the service, they went in and decided, okay, we're super sorry, so now you don't actually have to pay us to play these free-to-play games too. You know, Nintendo should probably get on that too, but they probably won't. Yeah, it's just bleak all around. And just so everybody knows, like I said, I'm particularly angry with Sony and Microsoft right now. And while I do think Nintendo is probably going to stay their course and not change much, even though they're kind of tiptoeing into trying to do more digital stuff, I think you can't fully rely on Nintendo either, though. So, like I said, as cool as Nintendo Switch Online is, you can't buy those games. Those are games that are not for sale. And let me just throw in one more thing. Like, I'm hesitant to try to buy that re-released Virtual Boy model. The one that, you know, you can't play the Virtual Boy games on Nintendo Switch Online without either the cheap little, you know, little crappy thing that costs like $25. That's just the headpiece. Or the fully rebuilt Virtual Boy, which costs like $100. So, I don't know, man. It sucks, and that's all I wanted to say. So, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree with what I said? Do you think this is being, you know, what is your advice for what to do for people? Maybe some of you have better advice out there than I've got. And if you do, then please share it in the comments section so that people will have an idea of what to expect going forward in the gaming world and what they need to do to prepare for an all-digital, you know, era of gaming. It sounds like, you know, just like an absolute nightmare, but at this point it really does look like it's unavoidable now. But maybe we're wrong. Maybe we can, you know, maybe we can get enough backlash going on Sony and Microsoft that they reverse course. And they say, you know what? We were wrong to do this. Let's just not do this. But, you know, whatever. Like I said, these suits don't care about anything but making money. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And hopefully there will be better news in the gaming world in the coming days in some way. All we can do is hope. Until then, see you later.